Life Audio.
Welcome to the TMUS podcast, where we share how grace, commitment, and cooperation can help couples live the everyday moments of marriage together. Hey, everyone. We're Ted.
And Ashley Slater. Today we are unpacking the popular marriage myth that marriage is a 50-50 relationship. But we aren't stopping there. We'll also talk about how the counter to this 50-50 myth that marriage needs to be 100-100 isn't always realistic. So Ted, today we are continuing our series on marriage myths.
Mm-hmm.
But before we debunk today's myth and discuss about why I think marriage doesn't fit neatly or realistically into a percentage rule such as 50-50 or 100-100, I thought we'd talk about astronomer Johannes Kepler.
Is he going to propose an exact number? So it's not 50-50. It's not 100-100. It's like 23.7. Are we getting into like numbers?
He's not going to speak directly to this myth. But he is going to bring a percentage rule to a marriage-related problem.
That sounds fascinating. Let's
keep
going then.
Did you know that in addition to developing his 3 laws of planetary motion...
Wait. Kepler did that?
Yeah.
That was Kepler?
Yes. I guess, okay, I am not like a science expert.
Planetary motion.
Those of you who are listening and are, give me grace. Yeah. But apparently he was the one who... thought that like the orbits were elliptical, not circular.
Okay.
And then that's
cool.
Yeah. And somehow he went on to develop the 3 laws of planetary motion that are still taught today.
And do you know what those are?
No, I don't.
Me neither. Let's continue.
But apparently, you know what he also did? He solved the problem of who to marry using math.
Oh, no. Kepler?
Yes. And what he discovered ended up being a percentage rule.
Whoa.
So, okay.
Well, he's a mathematician, so of course he works with numbers.
Right. So in 1611, he needed a wife.
Don't we all? Well, some of us do.
His first wife had died, and he needed someone to help raise his kids and manage his house. So this is not super romantic, but definitely practical.
Right.
So, and I didn't understand all of the math that goes with it, but I'll give you what I understood.
And this was in the 1600s, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So according to an article I read over at NPR, which is called How to Marry the Right Girl, a Mathematical Solution, and I'll put a link to that in the show notes, Kepler decided to interview 11 women, and apparently he kept notes on each one.
So these were candidates?
Yes.
He wasn't like doing like research just with random women. These are like 11 marriage candidates.
Yes, and it's funny because I think in one of the articles I read, they kind of like were like, oh yeah, it's like speed dating, you know?
Yeah, with one guy and 11 women. Okay, well, carry on. This sounds fascinating.
So he kept notes on each one. The first one had stinking breath.
Okay.
The second one had expensive taste.
Okay.
The third one was already engaged, which was a problem.
That is a problem.
Right.
Why introduce something?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, anyway.
The fourth was nice to look at, and so on. And yeah, for those of you listening, if you want to read what he thought about the rest of the women, check out the NPR article that I mentioned. He eventually ended up marrying the 5th woman, but that was after he interviewed all 11 and decided maybe his strategy hadn't been the best. So
now I'm going to have to read that because I want to know about this 5th woman. I guess she tolerated somebody who interviewed. That's weird.
Yeah. Okay, so according to another article at bigthink.com, Kepler realized that both waiting too long and choosing too early led to what the article calls suboptimal outcomes. So as a result, using math, he figured out what has become known as the 37% rule, which is essentially reject the first 37% of all potential spouses and then pick the next best one.
Okay, this is really weird, and I don't really see how it applies to what we're talking about, but I'm fascinated to see what you think, or see how you think it applies. 37%.
Right. And apparently, mathematicians actually recommend this rule for a lot of life's big decisions, such as taking a job or buying a house.
37.
Yes. Okay. So I am not recommending this. I just thought, and I'm not, it doesn't even really apply to what we're talking about
You
today.
just thought it was it's a number that a smart guy came up with.
Related to marriage.
Related to marriage. 37.
It's a percentage rule, right? That has been applied to marriage by this mathematician.
Got it.
Or people writing about this mathematician have said this is what he discovered. And today we're unpacking a popular marriage myth that marriage is a 50-50 relationship. That's a percentage rule.
Okay, I see myself bringing up 37% from time to time in our conversations.
Right.
Totally random, totally unconnected to anything, but it'll be a number that you hear because it's a scientific number.
It'll be a running joke is what you're saying.
Maybe it will.
Yeah. So it doesn't really relate. It's just that it's a percent, like I said, a percentage rule.
Cool.
That's being applied to marriage. And so we're going to unpack the popular marriage myth that marriage is a 50-50 relationship. But we're not going to stop there, because what I often hear to counter that, especially within the Christian community, is that marriage needs to be 100-100. Like both of us bring 100 every day to the relationship. And I don't think that's necessarily realistic.
Because I like to slack off. I like not giving 100%.
We'll come back to that. First, we're going to take a short break, and then we'll dive into this more. So we're talking about the marriage myth that marriage should be a 50-50 relationship. And according to a post over at familylife.com, it's this idea of you do your part and I'll do mine. And the writer of this post said, on the surface, it seems to make sense. Would you want to stay married to someone who isn't putting the same amount of time and effort into the relationship?
Right. Or the opposite of 100-100 is like, what percentage am I not giving?
Right. Well, we'll get to that.
Oh, this is great. So much we're going to get to in this episode.
But if we're still talking about like this 50-50 mindset, I think that a couple of things can happen.
Yes.
And I think one is that we stop doing and giving and sacrificing when we think we've reached our 50% share of doing and giving and sacrificing.
Yeah, I could see that. Like, do we need to think of an example? Like,
no, because I don't think we brought this myth into our marriage that you do 50, I do 50.
Interesting. Well, I'm thinking of specific things like maybe packing for a trip or making a meal. I'm like, I've already chopped up half the vegetables. I'm not doing it anymore, buddy.
Or I did my 50% of the chores. I am not going to chip in and help you with yours.
Ooh.
Maybe something like that.
Okay, gotcha.
I think something else that can happen when this 50-50 percentage idea or rule is brought into marriage is that we can start keeping tabs, not just on ourselves and whether we've done our part, but on our spouse. Are they doing their 50%? And with that, I think can come resentment and bitterness if they aren't.
And not giving the benefit of the doubt, maybe? Not, like I could see somebody saying, oh, you've only done 40% in this particular thing. You need to do more. I'm backing off.
Yeah. Or it could be that, you don't say anything. You just kind of sit on it and you keep going, oh, once again, they didn't do their part. So I think that, obviously it's not, marriage being a 50-50 relationship is not the best practice in marriage to have that mentality.
Right.
But I think that what I see within the Christian community is that often the response to that is, no, it's not a 50-50 relationship. It's a 100% relationship. And I think we should both bring 100%, every day when we can. I think it's good in theory, but I don't think, especially the longer you're married, that it's realistic.
See, I wonder what what this even means. Because on one hand, it's true that I'm 100% married. I am a 100% married man, and I'm 100% married to you.
But I think that what it is, this 100%, this 50%, what it is denoting or what it's referring to is how much energy and effort you bring to the relationship. It's
like you're sprinting all the time, giving.
Are you bringing 100%? Or are you slacking and not doing your part? I think that's
the thought.
I think that's the thought.
Got it.
Yes, it's not, I'm only 75% married today, so I'm going to act like a single guy the other 25%. It's not, it's not that kind of 100%.
Let me throw something in here. I don't know if you're intending to bring it up later, but 100%, if you're giving 100% to the marriage and to the family and stuff, does that mean you're withholding from self-care? Like sometimes you need to take care of yourself before you take care of those around you in order to be able to take care of those around you.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how that applies to this idea.
Okay. So I was thinking sometimes maybe you need to take a bath for a half hour and just collect your thoughts. And
well, hopefully I've taken care of all of my 100% before I do that. I'm being a little snarky there. But here's what I'm thinking as far as the 100%. I feel like we should bring our all. I think that's what that means. Bring your all.
Okay.
I think we should bring our all as much as we can, but on some difficult days, weeks, or even seasons, I may only have 30% to bring. It's not that I don't want to bring 100%. Or you might have just a crazy, you tend to have a lot of work in general, but you might have, maybe you're launching a new website or you're migrating a website and you can only bring 60% that week, even though you'd love to bring 100%. So I think that as long as we're both committed to doing and bringing our best when we can, I think it's okay if there are days when we're like, hey, I can't bring the 100%.
It sounds like if you expect 100, then there's no room for grace and forgiveness and mercy and just real life, kind of stuff.
Right. Well, I think that if I expect you to bring 100% every single day, no matter what is going on, I'm going to be frustrated and disappointed because that's not realistic.
Right. It feels legalistic too.
Yeah. And if I think that I'm going to be able to bring it every day and I can't, then I'm going to feel like I'm not doing my part and that I'm not good enough.
Yeah, it's bad for both of us. If you think you need to give 100%, you'll feel bad if you don't live up to that. And at the same time, if you expect me to give 100%, well, it's not going to happen all the time and you're going to have resentment or...
Right. And this is not, talking about this is not an excuse saying, hey, it's okay to phone it in whenever you want. We're not talking about phoning it in or just being lazy. We're talking about like when life happens and you just don't have the capacity.
Either physically or mentally or emotionally.
Yeah. And Brené Brown actually talks about this when she debunks the 50-50 myth.
All right.
And she says, there's a video out there so you guys can Google it if you want to hear her actual words, but it's from an interview. She says that she and her husband quantify where they are in terms of things like energy, patience, kindness. So her husband might come home and say he's got 20. And her response is, I got you. I'll cover you. I'll pull the 80.
Doesn't that feel good?
Right?
Or if I come home and I say, I've got 37% today. And you can do the math. That's 63.
Right. That might take me a minute. So I really think that this attitude, that she talks about, it really epitomizes bearing one another's burdens in marriage. We hope our spouse can bring 100 that day, but when they can't, we don't resent them or make them feel like they're failing. We look at them and we say, I got you. Yeah. And we've had, it's this idea of when maybe one of us is weak, the other is stronger.
Sure. Well, it's one reason maybe there are two people in a marriage that, if one is a little unable to give 100%, the other one can step up and help out.
What is the verse from? Is it Ecclesiastes?
3.
It's not the 3-chord strand.
It's a good one, though.
Yes. Let me see if I can.
Because if one of those strands happens to be a little weaker, well, the other two. Are you looking it up?
I am looking it up. That's why we have this pause here. It says,
we are not. Okay, go ahead.
2 are better than 1 because they have a good return for their labor. If either of them falls down, one can help the other up. But pity anyone who falls and has no one to help them up.
Pity the fool.
Also, if 2 lie down together, they will keep warm. But how can one keep warm alone? Though one may be overpowered, 2 can defend themselves. And then here it is. A cord of 3 strands is not quickly broken. And that's Ecclesiastes 4:9-12.
Well, they did not have electric blankets back in the day, to be fair. Because nowadays you can lay down and stay warm. But that's not necessarily
We are like all over the place today.
And so in past times, we talked about how like 51%, but this is a different thing.
This is just the percentage episode, isn't it?
All sorts of
no,
numbers.
our 49% is this who
preference.
Feels more strongly about where we should eat or what color the walls should be painted.
Yeah.
Those type of things. No, it's essentially how much energy and effort do you bring to the relationship?
Yeah.
50%, if that's your aim, that you should each bring 50%, I think it's going to cause problems.
Yeah. Because
it's very, like you said, legalistic. This is your part. This is my part. We shall not cross the lines.
We shall not.
Right. And 100% of energy or effort is, yes, we should strive towards bringing everything we can, but we can't always bring 100% because life is hard sometimes.
So we are speaking against legalism. We're speaking in favor of grace and giving what we can in marriage.
Yeah. Right. So to recap, this idea that marriage is a 50-50 relationship is a myth.
And as is the 100-100.
Right. At the same time, the idea that marriage should always be 100-100 isn't always realistic or practical for every day.
Yeah.
So we should strive to bring as much as we can, but sometimes we just don't have the capacity. And as spouses, we can cover each other on those days that we don't.
Excellent.
All right. So we're going to take one more break. And when we return, we'll be back with this week's Us Time Challenge. Okay, I had a hard time coming up with an Us Time Challenge this week. So I thought maybe those of you listening, you can just ask your spouse practical ways you can encourage them when they aren't able to give 100%.
Sounds like a good conversation. Very healthy, productive conversation.
Yes. All right. Well, thanks for joining us on the Team Us podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the podcast, and we'd love to have you leave a review over at Apple Podcasts. We're looking forward to next time as we keep talking about how grace, commitment, and cooperation can help couples live the everyday moments of marriage together.
Team Us with Ted and Ashley Slater is a production of Life Audio and Salem Media. If you liked what you heard today, please take a second to rate and review the podcast in your favorite podcast app so that more listeners like you can find the show. For more faith-filled, inspirational podcasts, visit us at lifeaudio.com.
Looking for ways to stay positive? Brighten your day with the Free Story Behind podcast. Hear weekly short stories that showcase true joy, love, and hope. Listen now at lifeaudio.com or by searching for Story Behind wherever you get your podcasts.